Okay, I'm back again, and in this video, I'm gonna go over how the Bible is connected to the supernatural and the paranormal. So, let's get into it. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. In the New King James. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God. Side note, in the Old Testament, the phrase sons of God referred to angels, and can also refer to include fallen angels or the watchers. Okay, which some historical document, if you will, which is endorsed by the Bible, called the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher, goes into more detail about what's going on in these 4 verses. So, the sons of God, this is angels. Basically, that's saying that when angels came down, and had children with mortal women, and that's how half human, half angel hybrid were born, called the Nephilim. Okay, that's basically what this is talking about here. So, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all of whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days and afterwards. Now some translations on verse 4 where it says giants would say Nephilim instead of giants, because that's the same word, giants. The word giants there is described in the half human, half angel hybrid. Okay, the Nephilim. And afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and bore children to them. Okay, now I'm going to skip over to Job chapter 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. Satan was also came among them. Job 2:1. Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present themselves before the Lord. So Job 2:1-6 and Job 1:6 and Job 2:1 proves that the phrase sons of God refers to angels and fallen angels, or the watchers. Because there was a debate in Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4 that some people believe that the phrase sons of God referred to like the sons of Canaan or Cain or something other, like his somehow became corrupted or something, which I don't know. I guess some people just don't want to admit that something supernatural happened, because this verse right here clearly demonstrates that the phrase sons of God is talking about angels. Okay, the New Testament phrase sons of God is referring to Christians, referring to believers, okay? It has a completely different meaning. Okay, so the Old Testament sons of God refers to angels, fallen angels, and watchers. Okay? And for watchers, you want to go into the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher, which are not exactly scripture, but they are historical documents, which is endorsed by the Bible. I'm going to get to some scripture about that in a second, because I know that I have that here somewhere. Okay, let's see. So, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places. Okay, to that place we have spiritual enemies, not physical, not natural enemies. It is spiritual. It is all demonic. Okay. So Luke chapter 16 verses 19 through 31, the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. And what I just want to get out here is that this could actually be a true story, and this could be a picture of the afterlife, of the afterlife, like that happened between those 3 days. No, was it 3 days? 4 days before. I think it was 3 days. I had to go double check John in chapter 11. Anyways, those 3 days that Lazarus was in the tomb, or Lazarus' body was in the tomb before he was raised from the dead. Because Lazarus' spirit was somewhere else, so where was he at? That's probably where he was at. And what I'm trying to get here is that you do not come back as a ghost when you die, okay? Now, there are some slight changes, because the holding place is no longer there, because that was just meant until Jesus, the resurrection and all that stuff. The holding place has been done away with. Now, the people who were in the holding place are in heaven. So, the point is, you no longer come back. You do not come back as a ghost when you die. That's what I was trying to get across here in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. I had that, and I listed that. This right here proves that you do not come back as a ghost when you die. Ghosts are actually demons. Okay. Let's see. 1 Timothy 4:1. Yeah, that's talking about people going falling into demonic doctrines. Okay, so this scripture right here, Matthew 27:45 through 50, about Jesus' crucifixion. I have since learned had a deeper revelation about the ninth hour of the day, which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, now notice something. 9, let me get on the camera. 9 represents divine completeness. Yeah, the number 9, I almost forgot what I was saying. The number 9 represents divine completeness in the Bible. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is the 9th hour of the day. Which is why that when Jesus was crucified, his time of death was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is also called the hour of prayer in later scripture, which I believe I have referenced somewhere. It's in the book of Acts somewhere. If I don't, I believe it's the hour of prayer. 9th hour of prayer. Yeah, in King James. So, yeah. Isn't it interesting that 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m., has a reputation of being the witching hour? And again, I recently had a deeper revelation about a biblical day, which I will not go into, and in more like Oliver in detail. I'm saving that for a later video, which I do not know when I'm going to release. But I will get into this about the biblical day, about 6 a.m. Okay, so I will get into this much. Okay, so we can look at Genesis verses 3 through 5. Let's see, it tells you that God created light, and then God separated the light from the darkness, and God called the light day and the darkness night. So it's interesting that 3 o'clock in the afternoon is the 9th hour of the light. 9 being divine completeness, the light. 3 o'clock in the morning is the 9th hour of darkness. So, there you go. The hour of prayer, the witching hour. I do not call it that, because the devil has no ownership of that. Okay? Okay, so the devil has no ownership of the witching hour, or the alleged witching hour. I do not call it that, because I would give the enemy power, and it would give him a way to actually cause stuff to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning to make you believe it. Okay, in reality, anything paranormal that happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, the so-called witching hour, is mocking the hour of prayer. It's mocking the holy hour. Okay? That's really all that is. So, yeah. That's what I have the scripture about Jesus' crucifixion. It's mentioning the time of death. That's what I want to focus to get a little context. It's mentioning the time of death at the 9th hour or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Excuse me. Let's see. Hold on, Matthew 10:8. And basically what I'm getting here is in Matthew chapter 10, verses 7 through 8. And again, Jesus mentions demons, like the disciples are casting out demons. And maybe I also want to get that we have authority to cast out demons, according to the scripture. Now, Matthew 10, 7 and 8. Jesus was training the disciples, so you got to connect that to Matthew 28, 18 through 20. And I think they forgot about like the last couple of verses, the last 2 or 3 verses in Matthew 28. So, yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. I was trying to get at what I was trying to get here is authority and how much authority that we have. In Matthew chapter 10, 7 through 8, we have authority over demons. Even though Jesus was directly talking to his disciples in this context, we are brought into this in Mark chapter 16, verses 17 and 18. And in Matthew 28, the last 2 or 3 verses, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, and then Matthew 17, 19 through 21. Okay, so the context here is Jesus' disciples had trouble casting out a demon. Jesus ended up having to do it himself. So they came to Jesus privately, now in Matthew 17, 19 through 28, and asked Jesus why they couldn't cast out the demon. And Jesus told them it was because of their unbelief. So yeah, that's what when I get out here is because of their unbelief. And then in verse 21, when Jesus said this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting, he means this kind of unbelief, okay? We can look at the context. So, yeah, Matthew chapter 17, verses 19 through 21. Read. If I go back a few verses, I think this verse starts around 13 or something other. Just where the paragraph begins, and read the end of the paragraph. Because the problem here was their unbelief. And then Jesus told them how to fix it. Okay, so Matthew 16, 17, 18. We have authority over the demons. That's what Jesus clearly said. Okay. And in 2 Corinthians 12, 1 through 4. Let's see, hold on a second. Oh yeah, this is Paul talking about how 14 years ago he had a vision. He wasn't sure if it was out of body or in the body, or he's climbing to the third heaven. So, and this right here proves that an out-of-body experience can be biblical, and it can be of God. This one scripture is right here. It is not astral projection. Okay? And then John 3:16, in the very important scripture, the most powerful thing that you can know, because you only have authority over these demons if you are a Christian. I mean, it's 100% guaranteed if you are a Christian, if you understand your authority, if you know who you are. And I did not find, and I need to find a scripture where I believe at least the book of Jasher is mentioned somewhere in the Bible. Yeah, it's in the Old Testament. The book of Jasher is mentioned in the Bible. Let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, I found two places where it is mentioned. Okay, yeah, it's mentioned in, I believe in the book of Joshua 10:13, and in the book of 2 Samuel 1:18. The moon stood still, the sun stood still and the moon stopped till the people had revenge upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. I've heard preachers say that this is why we have leap years. And then we have here 2 Samuel verses chapter 1 verses 17 and 18. Then David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and over his son Jonathan, and he told them to reach the children. He told them to teach the children of Judah the song and the song of the bow. Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher. So, the book of Isaiah shows you two verses where the book of Jasher is mentioned in the Bible. Okay? It is mentioned in the Bible. Book of Jasher, there it is. In those two places. So, in the book of Enoch, in the book of Jasher, gives you more details on what happens. And this right here shows you the origin of paranormal activity, of cryptids, of possibly the mythical creatures of every mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, you name it, mythology. That's probably where it all came from. Okay, these are probably things that actually existed because they didn't know what it was called. Mermaids might have actually existed. Okay? But they are an abomination unto God because they are half human, half animal. So nope, they are an abomination unto God. An abomination unto God. So that's not something that God would want. So mermaids may have existed. Now, half human, half animal hybrids of many kinds. Like we see in Greek mythology. In fact, there's a half human, half animal hybrid mentioned in the book of, I think, Jasher. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I don't know what it means, but it sounds like it's a half human, half animal hybrid. And I don't really know what it means. So yeah, clearly half human, half animal. So I don't know if it's talking about like a satyr, or like what we know as a satyr, or what we know as a minotaur or something. So half human, half animal hybrids may have actually existed in mythology. These animals that we see in mythology, they might even be some of the cryptids that we see today. So yeah, and that's